Solo open, solo pro, double open, double pro, mixed doubles, mixed relay, relay, done. Hello and welcome to On the Rox podcast with me, Coach Marshy. Hope you are all very well and are flying through your hybrid season, whichever discipline or categories you are competing in. And talking about categories, let's welcome today's guest into the show. Hello, Jodie, and welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah,
sorry, I look a bit of a mess. I've just competed this morning, so I've literally just come back straight from an event.
Yeah, so like as we record this, you've literally been out, and we had to arrange the time to fit in with a hybrid competition. It wasn't Hyrox, but give us a little bit of a background of what you've been up to this morning.
This morning I took part in the first wave of a brand new event. So at 10 o'clock this morning I did Metrix event, which was over in London, over in Greenwich. Did it the doubles. It was 5 different stations, 10 minutes each station as a you go, I go. So we had the ski, burpees, row, bike, and then 5 minutes sled push, 5 minutes shuttle run. Brand new event, looks good, less running than Hyrox. Yeah, it was tough. I think I was going into it as a bit of just doing it as a workout, but you know what it's like when you get to an event and you get started and you go a little bit full send. So my nice little workout didn't plan out just like that.
Yeah, sounds brutal. We didn't really go into it while we were sort of off recording, but I was aware you'd done it. So it sounds obviously like that sled push sounds horrendous, but obviously like then the shuttle runs and the bike, obviously they're fairly. Is that a Concept 2 bike?
Yeah, Concept 2.
Yeah. So in terms of like maybe not in the CrossFit world or like kind of fitness comps, but Concept 2 in this hybrid space of like big competition, big numbers, that sounds like the first time that's really been included. If this ends up going big, who knows? But concept bike in there, a sled push for 5 minutes, did you say?
Yeah, so to be fair, the sled push was easier. I was talking to Richard and Jake afterwards, and it's only the sled plus 20 kilos. So I geared up thinking it was all Hyrox weight and flew down it. It was quite nice to do that, but yeah, that was quite burning on the glutes. So we took it a lap at a time. That wasn't too bad. The bike, I don't really do much on the bike usually, so that was tougher than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, it was a really good event. And I spoke to the organisers afterwards. They're actually going to do a few more, so there's going to be another one coming at the end of the year.
And sort of like numbers today, but also like availability of numbers per wave. How was it big?
It was packed. I mean, we was the first wave, and as we worked around the stations, it was getting busier and busier because another wave would come in behind us. So when we got in there, it looked a bit empty. But as I'd finished and as I was leaving, it was really, really busy. And I think there's people on till 5, 6, 7 o'clock tonight. And
so
I think
so as those stations go, you say 5.
Yeah.
So is it like it's on and then there's like a transition period, and I guess the next wave just follows in?
So it's 10 minutes on each station. You get 4 minutes rest, which is actually just moving on to the next station. And then people join in. Yeah, they lured us into a full sense of security there, that you get a little rest. You don't. It just means you're walking for 4 minutes to the next station.
Sounds cool. So Metrix, there you go. You've got some airtime, and that is very interesting because I'm already thinking, right, let's go. Right, when's the next one? Let's do it. So that's cool. And in terms of last question on that, then would your impression be that it's scalable compared to what you're in today? It could go into a bigger arena.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the venue was great. The organisation was great. And the setup was the sleds were in the middle and then everything else was around the outside. So definitely could fit more people in there if in a bigger venue. I think it was supposed to be a whole weekend thing, but it changed. But I think after the first event today and the hype around it as well, and people saying how good it was, definitely think they'll be making it a bigger event next time.
Yeah, I'll probably ask you a question about it again later on towards the end of the show, because I think there is a question which we'll hold fire on now, but just to think about it while we go through, you know, does it, if it's got the vibe and it's got the community and the atmosphere for the everyday athlete, does it need to be Hyrox anymore? And that might be a question that we could pose later on, which I will. I'm going to ask you about that later on. But before we sort of go into anything else, talk about who you are just every day, just like what you do every day in life, who you are, what you do, that kind of thing.
So by day, I'm an accountant. I'm head of finance for a company local here in Surrey. So yeah, not fitness world related at all. I sit at a desk all day, which is probably the worst thing to do when I'm trained like I do in the morning. So that's my day job, and I just go to the gym. And I used to go to F45 classes, and that's kind of how I got into everything. And then just from there on, just moved on to do comps and races and runs. And I mean, that's over a space of a couple of years. I didn't just wake up one morning and think, oh, I'm going to totally change everything I do. Just been adding, I mean, you know, I've known you for a while. I just kind of add more and more to my calendar as time goes on. But yeah, not in the fitness industry. Sometimes I wish I had a lot more time to get to the gym and train than I do, but I make time for it because it's something that's important to me and I like doing.
Yeah, no, and I think you know, when we have these sort of seated jobs, it's important to have that movement, right? Because in a bit of maybe a bit of structure, or not even structure, you don't even need to be into the whole hybrid fitness racing scene. Just having that gym kind of aspect to your life is probably really important. And do you do anything lifestyle wise to kind of counter that seated job other than the gym?
Not really. This has been my favourite saying the last couple of weeks, is that I feel like I'm either in the gym or at work or sleeping. And because I've got so much stuff coming up and so many races, I put a lot of time into it, and that's literally all I'm doing at the minute. I do like to go on holiday. People who look at my Instagram know that I like to go on holiday quite a lot, but most of the time I'm tying it in with a competition of some sort. I did say that this year I was going to do a lot less than I did last year. It's not really working just yet. But
well, you know, gym, work, gym, sleep, repeat. Nothing wrong with that. Holiday
exactly
thrown in
that.
every now and then. You know, I love that as well. So, so people might wonder why I listed all 7 categories of Hyrox in the intro. Let's drop the bomb. You have completed all 7 categories. Well done. Congratulations. When that came out sort of a week before we're sitting here now to record, even having, you know, met you probably 2 years, well, 18 months ago to now, that bit's been left out of the conversation. People probably don't overly talk about it. We were sort of saying before we came on as well, you've had conversations since that where you thought others might have done it, but it's kind of a left out conversation. But actually, what we saw, anyone who follows you or knows you on Instagram, and I think myself and Ian on UK Fitness Racing Podcast both shared it as well. I think it's a massive achievement, and actually, what a great achievement to have done, bearing in mind how much the boom of Hyrox has come. So, for you, A, well done, but B, does it feel special?
Do you know what? I did it without even realising I was doing it. I have races booked up so far in advance. I didn't really realise until earlier this year that that's what was going to happen, just because I had these events booked in. So I genuinely think, or I genuinely, like I said to you, I genuinely thought there was a lot more people that I thought had done it who haven't done it. And probably because a lot of the people in the sport are trying to get PBs and trying to get better times, as I do it just for the fun of it. So I have gone from an open double solo to a open doubles with my friend Katie, and my next race was an open pro. I'm getting this all wrong now, aren't I? Went from London, November, I did doubles with my friend Katie, and then the next race I did was a pro solo, and that was from one end to the other, right? And that was a bit of a shock, but I do it just to test myself. I do it just to try things out. I don't do Hyrox to get on the podium because I know I'm not going to. I don't do it to try and beat my time. For me, finishing is the achievement. So I think that's why there's probably not as many people who've done it as I thought there would be. Just because people do chase that better result and that better time more than I do.
Yeah, and that's kind of, it's like a burning question there for me all along since I sort of said to you, come on and have a chat about it, that some might think there's a logical way of doing all 7 if that was going to be a goal. In terms of you, the first Hyrox you ever did, what was it?
My first one I did was in Madrid in September 23, and that was solo open. But what had actually happened was my first one was due to be the women's relay. So I thought, right, I'm going to ease myself into this Hyrox thing, do a relay. That's a nice little starting point. So I signed up for a relay, and as I was training for it, I was thinking, oh, I'm actually really enjoying this and I want to push myself. I don't think doing just a relay, I don't mean that in any way against people who do just relays, but for me, doing just a relay was not enough to train for. So I swapped my relay spot for a solo in Birmingham in 23. Then, so I had this lined up, was going to do my first solo in Birmingham. And then a couple of friends from my F45 were going out to Madrid. And we'd go for a little run in the morning before a session. And I was out running with 2 other people, and one of them was going, one of them wasn't. And I said to Alex, do you fancy coming to Madrid to do Hyrox? And her answer was, it's a hard no. I was like, okay, fine. That was it. Then later in the day, they messaged me and said, how are you getting on with your Madrid trip? Ha ha ha. And I was like, I've actually got it booked. I booked the ticket, I booked the flights, I booked the hotel. And it was just an impulsive moment. I thought, you know what, there's people out there that I know. I like traveling, I like a little holiday, let's book it. So yeah, booked it, off to Madrid, went and did my first solo. And I remember finishing it thinking, that was awful, but I've got another one booked in 4 weeks' time, so I've got to do it again. Whereas I think if I didn't have that one booked, who knows? Who knows if I would have done it again, because I did the first one and I just thought that was tough. Like, wow.
It's an interesting point you raise as well, because I totally agree with what you're saying, and there's absolutely no disrespect meant to anyone training for relays. And we've certainly had people at our gym that have used it as like that entry point, if you like you're saying,
Yeah.
that first sort of step in. And I'll go back to this order that I talked about of like, how would you achieve what you've achieved if you were doing it logically? And before Manchester, what I would have said, which I haven't told you yet, is I would have said, yeah, do a relay, then do a doubles, then maybe do a solo open and a mixed doubles maybe.
Yeah.
Like, and I'd have come up with this approach, and I still kind of believe in that. However, having done relay at Manchester and the way they'd set it up, that was no place for a beginner that night in terms of the rough and tumble of the changeover process. Now, I don't know if it's like that in every single one. I've certainly watched another relay in Birmingham earlier on this season in October 24, and it didn't look the same, but maybe that was participation levels. But the way they did it in Manchester and the way they set it up, you would have said, I'm not sure that is like an entry point because of the rustle and bustle on the changeover section. In terms of the track, maybe I get it's a lot lighter out there on the run, but in terms of like that process, then when you sort of are in that process and you've done a solo open, say, when did mixed doubles and then doubles pro women and pro women, obviously that came after you'd done a solo, right?
Yeah, so I started doing out solos because I don't think I'm very good at it, and my mentality is that I don't want to hold someone back. So that's why I started doing solos, did a few solos, did some relays, and then I did a sim up in Watford, and I met a girl there and was talking to her about it, and she said, oh, I wish I had more friends who did this kind of thing. And I was like, let's do it. Let's do doubles together, because I'd never done a doubles at this point. And we arranged to do it, but it was for Birmingham last year and it was sold out. And I said, don't worry, let's train for it. We'll get tickets. We'll manage to get tickets. The only tickets we managed to get was pro doubles. So I thought, like, do you know what? That's all we can get. Let's go for it. She's strong. We've both got experience in Hyrox. And that is genuinely how we ended up doing the pro doubles. Did that, enjoyed it. And it was because that was my first doubles as well. I think I was a little bit, I don't know, lured into a false sense of security that, oh, these weights don't feel as heavy as I thought they were going to. But obviously I've got someone there to give me a helping hand. So we done pro doubles, and then it was that night that I actually booked my pro solo, because I thought that wasn't as bad as I thought, going to give it a test. And I booked it on the sly, didn't tell anyone. It had been booked for months. I thought I'm just going to take myself off, because also I feel the pressure if there's people there watching me. And I love having all my friends there and lots of people I know at these events, but booked on the sly, just going to take myself off and just get this pro done. And then I had one of my friends I was going to do a doubles with. So I booked tickets. I also booked a solo ticket for the same event just in case, because I knew I just wanted to be at the event. So that's how it kind of come about. And like I said, I did all 7 categories without realising that that wasn't my aim to tick them off. It just happened. And then when I had did the pro, had the doubles, mixed doubles booked, I was like, oh, hold on, when I've done this, I'm going to have done them all.
Yeah, it's quite a cool byproduct, right? Because like it was part of the process. You went through the process, but then actually, as a result, it's that you've done all 7. It wasn't actually a target. Whereas we do know people. We have people here in the gym that want to do all the categories by a certain point, and there might be a bit of banter between me and one of our guys that whether she'll do it first or I'll do it first. But you know, there's factors involved in that. So I guess it can be quite hard to do all 7. But in terms of like when you did your first race to when you did your pro, just give everyone a real clear timeline on that in terms of, you know, your first race to your first pro race.
So my first race was in September 23.
Yeah.
And then I did another solo in October 23. I did a mixed doubles in December 23. And the reason I picked a relay then, mixed relays in December, the reason I picked relays because I only landed back from a month in Australia 2 days before. So I thought it's probably not best to do a solo or anything on jet lag, do a relay. I did another solo in Copenhagen in March, and then sort of an hour after finishing, I was back on the start line to do the women's relay. And we got a podium spot, which was quite nice. That was a nice little touch. Then my pro doubles was in October 24 in Birmingham. My solo pro was in February this year. And then mixed doubles 2 weeks later. So I don't leave much time. It's either 6 months in between them or 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, it's quite cool. And I think the you know, you know a lot of people, and this, you know, you're sitting here because we met just as part of the community, and you know, it's fair to say the Brits, we will travel all across Europe now. I mean, it just felt like last weekend in Poland and you know, even not so much Vienna because it was the Open Championship, so there'd have been every representation there, but there's been a couple like Poland stood out both times, you know, last weekend, and Poznan stood out, and even like some of the actual French ones as well, they stand out. And like you scroll Instagram, and I just feel like everyone I know in Britain has just like gone there for the weekend. It's like it's part of our season. It's part of our local season, and obviously you've highlighted absolutely that you love to go on holiday and love to travel. And actually, you probably found something to give you even more reason to travel to places that perhaps you might not otherwise have gone to.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, people say to me, oh, where are you off to this weekend? Oh, actually, I'm off to Toulouse. I'm going to go and do that. But unfortunately, because I do so many of them as well, I think, and I do like a holiday, I don't have that much leave. So Vienna, I flew in on Saturday morning, flew back Monday morning. For Toulouse, I left work on Friday night, flew out, flew back on the Sunday morning. So it's great to say that I've been to all these places, but when you go to airport, hotel, venue, hotel, home. I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more traveling around, but also you can't really do much. Well, I don't like doing much the day before a race just to save the legs. Can't really do much the day after a race because my legs are so worn out. So yeah, I think I'm going to start doing a few further afield just to make a proper holiday of it.
I mean, I've got a new nickname for you, Jodie, and you
Oh, here we go.
absolutely hit that today, because it was like another weekend, another flat lay, and it's like on her Instagram, right? It's just like your Instagram is another weekend, another race, another weekend, another flat lay. And actually, do you know what? I love the flat lay. I think it obviously is a social media thing, but like you're like Miss Flat Lay, because we get to see it every time, and it's really cool. You know, like Chino's high socks are there, and you
Yeah,
got whichever vest you're wearing, or whichever brand you're wearing that day, and it's cool because it kind of sets the tone. And then like, right, cool, right, Jodie's there, she's in Toulouse this weekend, right? We'll keep an eye on what she's doing, and it's just a nice way for people that have become your friends, like we've become friends over the last 18 months, and that's been really cool, because then you can keep in the loop without necessarily having to do all the stuff that people struggle to do in this day and age with messaging. It's hard to, if I said good luck to everyone
exactly.
in the
Yeah,
industry, that's all I'd do all weekend. So, you know, I think it's great to be able to just see those little stories, and there you are in London today, just at home, like a home competition,
yeah.
you know, competing again, which is cool. And
Just on the flat lay, someone actually messaged me this morning and said, "Oh, thanks for the reminder. I've got to do mine."
yeah, no, it should be a thing. Hashtag Jodie's flat lay. Like,
Public service announcement. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
here
yeah.
with the information service as well.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Any sort of, you know, just around that travel question, then obviously Hyrox is reaching some of the far wonders and extremities of the world compared to where we are in Britain, and you do regularly travel, or compared to most people probably regularly travel to Australia and other places. Are you going to try and incorporate that process?
Do you know what? I was gutted. So I was out in Australia in December, and the Melbourne. So I was flying to Sydney, but the Melbourne Hyrox was 3 days before I landed. I was already out there for a month, so I thought, can I eke it out and go out a week early? But I know how bad my jet lag is when I go out there. So to get there on the Saturday or the Wednesday and race on the Saturday, that would literally be going just to tick the box. I knew that I wouldn't get a very good time because I do suffer when I go out there. But yeah, I've got family out there, so it's not going to be the last time I go out to Australia anyway. I just need to plan it around the Hyrox calendar next time.
Yeah, I might ask you a few more questions about Australia and hybrid in a little bit. So you're sitting here, A, because you've got a great story to tell, and it's great to hear that story. But B, you're sitting here because we met as part of this wider hybrid Hyrox community, is how it started, and now we've got other things in there like Deca. You've been here and competed at our actual gym.
That's where I
For
met you, was
Deca.
it Deca, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd spoken a bit on Instagram, but then you
Yeah.
actually came and did our Deca. But you know, there we were, beginning of 2025, and we're all just sitting having a coffee in the XL while we're at Athex Games, shouting at each other and
That was when
cheering
you
each
told
other.
me that you would rather do another men's pro solo than Athex again. I'm never going to let you live that down because
So just to give some context on that, Jodie was doing solo Athex, and I had done doubles, mixed doubles, about 2 hours before she was due to go on. And I walked through the finish line, and I did just say to you, God, I'd rather do it. I'd only done my first men's pro in November 24, so it'd only been a month, you know, a couple of months, well, a month really, because it was the end of November. And I was like, Jodie, I'd rather do another one. And hilarious, really, that was the statement that came out. And I totally forgot my day job of like being a coach that's meant to like make it better for people on the start line. You're about to go on the start line, and I've just told you the worst thing you could have heard.
great, thanks.
So yeah, but no, the community certainly is something that I think we both it's fair to say we both participate in quite regularly. You know, give us your thoughts on sort of the community and the people that you've met and the friends that you've made through this process. Was it unexpected? Is that what you went into it for? What sort of happened for you with the community?
it's strange because I was talking to someone today that most people our age, you go out drinking and to the pub and things like that. But now I think a lot of people our age are going into this, right? So I kind of got into it all because I used to go to F45 and go to the gym, and F45 is obviously different than a normal gym because you're at the same class at the same time with the same people, sort of kind of day in, day out. And you do make little groups of friends. And I've got some great friends who I've met through there. And then we obviously encourage each other. And it was at a Christmas party when we had a couple of drinks that we all encouraged each other to sign up for a Hyrox. And that's kind of how it started. And then we started doing this Hyrox training together. And then just through that, like just going to these events, like, so I do Hyrox, yes, but as you know, I do pretty much every hybrid event that's out there. And you do get to see the same people week in, week out, and they do become your friends. And I've been there this morning and I've seen a load of people that I saw last week, and that is building a community. And I've had a conversation about that this week, that I don't really have a local community for that, I guess, because my performance coach, we're spread out across the country. The people I see at Hyrox, we're spread out across the country. And yeah, I go to a gym here. I go to a Hyrox gym, and we've got a nice little group, but then I just go to a regular gym and train there. So it is so nice when you've got people who are into the same things as you are. And yeah, I'm seeing my friends this weekend, but it's not going out for lunch or for a few drinks. It's going to meet them at an event and work out, do what we enjoy doing, have fun. Yeah, we get to have a chat and catch up with each other, but it is important. And I've met some of my best friends through doing all this, and some of the closest people I've got in my life now are people I've met in the last year or two through doing all this. And it's because they get you, and we're all on the same page, and we all enjoy this type 2 fun that's horrible at the time, but yet we still sign up for it. And having those kind of people in your life to support you and encourage you is so important. And that's kind of why you do it. I have been thinking about that this week. That
do you feel those people can be more supportive than people you've known your whole life?
100%, absolutely 100%. Because not saying any of my friends who I've known for years and years aren't supportive, they are, but the people who are into the same things as you are, they get it. They do get what you're into, and what you're feeling after a race when you've had a bad race. They understand that more. You need lots of different types of groups of friends, but these people who do support and encourage each other, people who are there cheering for you. And I think I've said to you before, I've been watching people at races and have people cheer out to me while I'm watching them, or running around a track, and you've got someone cheering you that you've only met once or said hello to, because we all just want to see each other do well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And you know, my gym did exist before I existed in the hybrid space, both as a podcaster or a coach. But so community was big to me and always an important part. And I'll be totally honest, I love it. I love this community that we're talking about, and that I've got that. I'm not sure I overly expected it to happen. We're going to talk about CrossFit in a minute, and we're both big fans of CrossFit and have been probably for a while. But I think, like, if you listen to like Tia Toomey and Shane, or if you listen to them, it's always been about like community and people. And to be fair, funnily enough, they're saying the same thing about Hyrox now. They're in there, but like, I think for me, I had community in my space before, but when I came into Hyrox, I wouldn't have really been looking or be expected to have, you know, become so regularly in contact with people like yourself. And you know, we have many common people that are, I guess, if you drop a pin where you are and draw an hour's radius around you, there's lots of us within there that we've all known and got to know. But actually, this isn't spread just around sort of London and an hour in any direction. This is spread all the way up north as well. People that we talk to, and you know, you are a member and part of another community that has been built off of Hyrox, which is, and the hybrid space, which is the Rox Queens community. And there is a reel on our Instagram where we did talk to you on location about it, and it's on our YouTube, that whole interview. But in terms of Rox Queens, tell the people what it is, because some people won't know what it is, but actually, like, what does it give you, and what have you done with Rox Queens? You know, what have you got out of being part of that, or what does it add to the industry for you?
So the Rox Queens, for those who don't know, was a group and a community set up just over a year ago by Caitlin, who was out running on the track one night on her own, and it was dark in the middle of the winter, and she had a thought of, wouldn't it be nice if there was other people with me, one, to feel safe, but also just to kind of share that journey. She's done an amazing job of growing that community. She really, really has. And I think it's great that just a small idea of, oh, this might be a good idea, has grown so big. And then I'd met Caitlin at the very first event that we had in CrossFit in Putney. It was back in March last year, I think it was. And Caitlin lived at the time not too far from me. But the whole idea of that community, again, of going to meet up with someone, go for a run with someone who's going to encourage you and support you and push you along. Because how many times has someone said to themselves, right, I'm going to go to the gym tonight, get home from work, don't go to the gym. But if you've arranged to meet someone, you're accountable and you don't want to let that person down. I think that plays a massive part in it as well. If you'd said to someone, I'm going to meet you at this event, you go because you don't want to let people down. Like this morning's event, I probably could have done without it after racing in Vienna last week, but I'd agreed to do it with someone, and it just holds you accountable.
And you're glad you went now?
Oh, definitely glad I went. I mean, might feel a bit sore tomorrow, so ask me again tomorrow. But at the minute, I'm glad I went. But just through these kind of Rox Queens events, and yeah, social media has a massive part to play in it. But again, I've just met so many people through this. Through one of the events, I've met one of my good friends, Bex. We did a Rox Queens thing with Sam Bilby. I met her, and through that, we stay in contact with each other. She come and met us out in Vienna last week, and we all got together. But it's going back to what I was saying earlier. It's just having people who understand what you're going through, understand when you're feeling nervous or you feel rubbish after a race, who are there as well a lot of the time, because we've got group chats where we say, right, we're in this place, come and give us a shout. We've all got the T-shirt, so if we see someone wearing the T-shirt, we know we're all part of the same group. And I definitely think it's done a lot for people's confidence as well, in terms of if someone's partner's backed out, we'll get one of the Rox Queens in to partner up with them, and they've been pushed in their race and done better than they thought they could do. And just cheering each other on, supporting each other, encouraging each other, encouraging people to take that next step, do that next race, do that next level. I think it's great what she's achieved, and it's great that it's growing.
Yeah, I'm blown away by what Caitlin's done. I do sort of like tell her regularly, because the thing is I think it's grown because it's like organic and it's not false. It's built on passion, and I think anything that's built on passion is always going to do better than anything. And you know, I think everything you've captured there, you know, what a story that is, and you know, you're a massive integral part of it. You were there on day one, and back to your travels, you find yourself in Bali, and there you are meeting up with Caitlin, like, because that's where she's gone and that's where you were, and that's how you do it, right?
Yeah, I'm glad that she asked me to go for brunch instead of asking me to go for a workout.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool places in Bali, but it looks like they've got the kit to do all the stuff as well.
Yeah,
so
it was a great place to train, and I had a good week out there doing some good training.
Yeah, and obviously I see she's just Abu Dhabi is now just been released. You know, we're recording this on a Saturday morning, and I believe it was their Saturday morning that it started on. You know, they had it, or Friday night, whatever they did it on, but they've just done it this literally now. And you know, any Rox Queens listening to this, Caitlin's dropping the carrot this week, so there's a lot going on, and I'm not going to pretend that I know anything more than you. But it sounds exciting what I do know. So look out for that for sure. And then sort of that wider community, going away from sort of Hyrox, you have done other events, and it'll be interesting to know what you did in the end, because we had a brief conversation where I told you I didn't feel you needed to do another half marathon because it clashed with the first deck of fit, the first ever deck of fit of the UK. But you know, all these things are popping up now. You've just been to one this morning, and there's all these other big global events. Deadly Dozen.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned Sam's name, and you've mentioned coaching. So you've invested in some coaching, and your coach is Sam Bilby,
yeah.
and she's an ambassador for Deadly Dozen, which we've not even mentioned. So kind of what's your thought process on this in terms of you as a consumer, but also in general for like movement, fitness in sport, and the whole hybrid industry? What do you think's going to happen?
I think the fact that, so I do a lot of Hyrox abroad because it's hard to get tickets in the UK. And I also prefer the abroad events because I think they're a little bit quieter. They seem less hectic. But because of the whole ticket situation in the UK, it's such an open market to create an event, right? So there's lots of deckers going on now. There's Deadly Dozen. There's the Essex Games, which I've done a few times. There's now Metrix. I'm sure there's some other bits in there that I've done and probably forgot about. Oh, Affex as well that I saw you at.
Yeah.
There's so many things that people can get involved in, and I don't know if it's because I'm now part of it where I wasn't before, but it definitely feels like there's such an influx of it now. There's you could literally do something every week if you wanted to. And I don't know if it's because a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon to give it to people because that's what people want, or it's always been there and I've just never noticed before because it wasn't my thing.
Is it trendy?
I think it is. I really think it is. And like I say, my age group as well, I'm 41. So my kind of age group, I'm not into going out drinking and clubbing and things like that anymore. This is kind of what I do for my fun at weekends, and that's my enjoyment, and it's good for us as well. So I think because it is trendy, there's so much that you can do. There's so many that you can get involved in. To give, without sounding cheesy, but give the people what they want and give us these events. And location is a massive thing as well because you don't want to have to travel hours and hours to go and do an hour's event. But so the fact there's so many different things popping up all around the country, there's something for someone every week, I reckon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, you know, you touch on meeting people in the community earlier on, and that idea that there is events all over the place. Like 10 days from this recording, I'm going to Glasgow, and very little of the Purple Army's coming with me. And I'll definitely be there for 2 days by myself.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm not going to be alone.
Yeah.
It's like I can go and I can just walk in to this venue and someone will want to sit and have a coffee for 20 minutes and someone will want to stand and have a catch up and a chat, let alone all the things that I want to do with the podcast and compete, etc. as well. So it does offer that to all of us. I agree. You know, we're not into the clubbing and the drinking like we would have been, you know, sort of 10, 15 years ago, but this is certainly our, as you put it, type 2 fun. We're out there having it and we're loving it, for sure. So going back to your Hyrox journey, when you're talking to someone now, because you've got the whole categories, they're all in your armory now, and you're talking about pro. There's those conversations: pro versus open, solo versus doubles. You know, what is it now that you are sort of saying to those people when you get asked those questions? Because I'm sure you've already been asked. You know, oh, did pro feel much worse? Was it easier, harder to do like mixed doubles or women's doubles? You know, what is it that you're saying?
It's all just so different. But I honestly, that pro race, I'm still scarred. It was, I didn't do the maths on the weights until I was on the plane on the way home. And like I put in my Instagram post, I genuinely do not know how I finished it because there were so many times that I wanted to walk off that course, but I just thought, keep going, no matter how long it's going to take. Have an idea in my head because we train for these things, and I don't know if it's just me or everyone else or a lot of people, but I train for these events and I train the weights and I train for going through the run straight afterwards. But there's something about an actual race day that's just so different. And I genuinely think the issue with Toulouse, my solo pro, was I talked myself out of it. I was in that start tunnel and I'm looking around at everyone and thinking, I don't belong here. Like, I don't belong
like
in a
proper
pro race.
imposter syndrome, was it?
Yeah, really, really bad. And I genuinely believe I talked myself out of it before I even started, and that was my issue. But I did it, and I just kept running around, kept thinking, and I know it's cheesy, but I do think it's a lot. I can do this. There's so many people out there who would love to be able to do half of what I do, whether it be for physical reasons or financial reasons or things like that, but I can do it. So I did it.
You didn't come here for Beck Mason, did you, for the Rox Queens event?
No, I was doing another race.
Do you know what? I was, fair enough. I'm hosting the event as a venue. So, of course, I'm on site that day because I need to run the event for Caitlin and be here.
Yeah.
But I was privileged enough as a male to be in that talk and listen to Beck that day. And Beck Mason, what she said about racing with gratitude was ridiculous. Like, it's stuck with me, but it's like literally with me every day. Some people be like, oh, don't be obsessive, but no, actually, yeah, be obsessive, because like you said, you just highlighted, whether it's financial, whether it's physical, whatever it is, we probably should be on there with gratitude. So if you're literally dying on a sled pull in a pro, actually, at least you're getting the chance to die on a sled pull in a pro, whereas many people aren't, because they can't even get a ticket or they can't do whatever. So I think it's a good point you raised there. And I think, anyone who's listening who is physically capable and they can get a ticket and they can afford it, don't moan about it. You can do it. Let's crack on. But no. So what did get you around in the end? Other than that, was it just like break it down into stations, or did you try and like section it a bit? What did you do?
I literally just one foot in front of the other. I kept moving. Like the sleds really hit me hard. Even though, like I said, I've trained for them. They hit me hard, and then I got onto the burpees, and I had one of my mates was there supporting, and he was shouting out, "Come on, you can do it!" And I was like, I genuinely think I need to walk off. And he's like, "Just keep going." And that was it. I just kept going, just kept thinking, just got to do this bit. Once I get to the rower, it's a little bit of a sit down. Sat down the row, I got really bad cramp in my leg and had to take a foot out and stretch out. And it's funny that the photographer got about 20 pictures of me with my legs stretched out, but none of me rowing. Great. The farmer's carry, I thought I'd be okay with, but I had to stop a few times. And yeah, it was just that, do not give up, because you can do this no matter how long it takes. Just keep going. So then 2 weeks later, the same weights, but doing it as doubles in the mixed doubles last weekend. And it was a whole different ball game. That was good fun. It was so nice having someone there who's stronger to do a lot of the work as well.
You took the words out of my mouth, actually. I was going to say, without going into sort of like, clearly in this sort of thing, there's going to be a need for different weights for males and females. Like, if we just say that's a given and forget all the other debates that could come up around that topic, but let's just say that's a given, right? And then you've just said there, you've answered my question, because when you do a pro doubles women compared to the mixed doubles, which for a woman is the same thing in terms of weight. So I think most people who would be into Hyrox would understand that, but some people might not realize that a mixed doubles and a pro women's doubles is the same for the woman. But then in a way, for the male, I guess doing a mixed doubles is the same as doing an open solo or doubles for a male. So it's an interesting dynamic, and that's what I was going to bring up, but you've kind of answered it already. It felt different then. It was not the same thing.
We had I'd only trained with him once, but he's been a friend of mine for a while. So we had a plan, and I think we did pretty much stick to the plan, and it was kind of 60% on the skis for him, 40% for me. The push, he was doing 70%. And I know it sounds silly, but having so my next race is pro women's double, and the aim is that we'll probably split it half and half. But just having that little bit extra on the strength stuff that he found easier than I would. And then I tried to make it up on like the burpees and the lunges and things like that.
Yeah, so physically, what's your best station and what's your worst station?
In
because
the open.
Then the next question would be, based on whatever you answer for that, the next question would be did you use that in the mixed doubles to your advantage, so that you helped out in that way, or did it not really go that way?
I don't really think I've got a best. I'm going to say my best station is farmers carries, because that's just a couple of heavy shopping bags, right? And I'm used to that most weekends as well. But and I was training quite a lot on lunges, but then when you get there, it hurts more than you train for. Yeah, because I've been training up in weights as well. The wall balls felt a little bit easier, but not in a way that I could do 50 without stopping. Just that it just doesn't hurt as much as it has hurt before. That's the best way I'm going to describe it. Training heavier just doesn't hurt as much as it used to hurt, but it still hurts.
Yeah. I think I dropped a little interview with Tom Hogan this week on Instagram, and he talked about lunging, like in Hyrox, where sometimes having a lighter weight just allows you to send it more, and therefore your DOMs are worse than they are if you did it a bit heavier and a bit slower. I found that really interesting, and to be honest, I'd forgotten I captured that part. But he made a good point, and you're kind of talking about it in a similar way, that where, you know, if you're training heavier, you're just giving yourself that advantage to be able to cope with it better on the day.
Yeah.
But I don't know, a mix. If you look at your 3 pro weight efforts as a female, so your solo pro, your double women's pro, and your mixed doubles. Let's say, take the lunges, the 20 kilo bag for you. Is that 3 different types of 20 kilo bag for you in those disciplines?
Yeah. The one in Toulouse, like the pain in my legs while I was doing it. That was another point where I just thought, how on earth am I going to do this? And I'm an accountant. I seem to do stuff and I count while I'm doing it. So I'm counting steps, I'm counting lunges, counting burpees, and I got to the third length of the lunges, and I got to 75, and I was like, right, another 25 to go. I did 1, and I was like, how am I going to do 24 more? But it's just, like I say, 1 foot in front of the other, I'll keep going. And then the other 2 times I've done lunges, so in women's pro doubles and mixed doubles, I've had that without having to step, where you just keep stepping through. Obviously pro, that was not going to happen. But yeah, same weight physically on my shoulders, but 3 very different lots of lunges, I guess.
Yeah, no, if anyone who's listened to every episode of this, me and my mate Tatey, I think you probably met Tatey, we're obsessed about lunges, because we just we hate them. So like, I love to talk about it on here, because it's always interesting, and that you have all the categories, to be honest. One last question about your perspective on this process of 7 categories, and that is just in general, talk about the word pro. Does it categorize it correctly? Is it scary? Should people be scared?
People shouldn't be scared, but I was. And like I say, I was in that tunnel, and it didn't help that Toulouse was quite a quiet race. So there's only 2 waves of women's pro. 2 girls I'd gone out there with to do it were in the first wave. I was in the second. So that's just enough to kind of get the nerves up. I mean, when I first started Hyrox, the first 3 races I did, I probably cried in the tunnel because I was so nervous. That's one of the biggest things I've taken from having a coach as well, is that I don't get that nervous anymore, because I feel prepared going into it, rather than just I've been training, let's give this a go. It shouldn't be scary, because everyone who was doing that pro race finished it. It shouldn't be scary because we train with those weights. Shouldn't be scary because we're strong people, and that's what we do. But yeah, it got in my head. I definitely felt like it was a scary thought. And like I said, I didn't tot up the numbers and realised how much heavier everything was until I was on the flight on the way home, and it was a bit too late. But yeah, it's for me, I do these things just for a sense of achievement, not to say I'm better than anyone else or look what I've done. It's just personal for me that I've achieved something. So for me to be able to achieve a pro race of a race 18 months ago that I swore I'd never do again, that's my achievement. Although the pro patches this year. So last year, the pro patches were very yellow, and this year they're not as yellow. So I'm not going to say that I'll do another pro race at some point, hoping for a bit more of a yellow patch, but who knows?
That's hilarious. I've got two questions. I've got two questions from that. The first one, I always find people's story about their first, or in your case, the first three, how they felt in the start tunnel. Because I mean, you've met me enough times and know me well enough to know that I'm not lost for words. But Sharon, who I did it with, mixed pro, first ever Hyrox, she's never known anything like it. She was like, you literally said nothing. And then I stood there and actually told a class that I wasn't coaching. Coach Carol was actually coaching it this week, and three of the girls in there are doing their first one. And I literally just stood there and did exactly to them what I did to you. And I said, do you know what? I've been on every start line in the world, marathons, half marathons, ultras, Ironman, etc. And I just went through this whole list of things I'd done. And I said, but do you know what? None of them are as scary as the Hyrox start line. And I just stood there and thought, you idiot, you're meant to be the coach. This is your gym. But you've just told us a story that we shouldn't take, solace and comfort in other people's stories. But I do take comfort from that, because I look at you and go, yeah, Jodie does this. She does all this stuff all the time. But at least you cried on the first three as well. It's quite an intimidating place, but it's the most friendly place at the same time. And if I could go back now, I'd focus on that community that was in there rather than my own nerves, is my advice. What's yours?
Yeah. I'm just going back to that start tunnel. I met someone in the start tunnel in Manchester, and we was having a chat. And then going back to the community and the Rox Queens, I then bump into her at every single race, and like we're friends and we have a chat now. You can meet people, and it's again that you're all in the same boat, right? So you're all feeling what each other are feeling, and it's nice to have that bit of chat just to ease the pressure and ease the nerves, I guess, going into it, and just having to think about what you're just about to go and take on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just want to rewind to Australia and make the link to a few things we've said. So you and I are probably the biggest fanboy and fangirl of CrossFit and CrossFitters, and Australia right now. What is going on with this transition to Hyrox? There may be political reasons, I get that as well, but look at, here we are this weekend, and you posted Ricky on your story. You're definitely a fangirl of him. But like, I think I'm listening to like Shane Orr and Tia Toomey talk about Hyrox, and they're telling me everything I've known for 2 years already. And I'm looking at them, having watched them for a decade plus now, where they are like the pedestal couple. They're like couple goals, all this sort of stuff, right? In my world. And I'm looking at her going, what an athlete, and well, look at him, what a coach, and blah, blah, blah. And now they're in my world, because I see like we were there first, not like in a competitive way, just like, wow, they've now come in our world, and they're talking about the community of Hyrox and what they're getting out of it already. And then if we stick to the Aussies, right, you've probably met JK, because he's very personal, he'll come and have a chat with anyone, and he's a great guy. But like the Aussies, if the relay, Elite 15 relay is happening in Chicago, bearing in mind James Newbury and Tia have qualified as a mixed doubles, and Joe Wettrick and Tia are probably going to go as an Elite 15 doubles. Like, unreal. What we're going to see is going to be unbelievable from the Aussies. But like this transition, the CrossFitters in our industry now in Hyrox, but also like CrossFit is a hybrid sport. I understand you went to Rogue Invitational end of last year. Like, do you see it as a is CrossFit a brand within a hybrid fitness?
I think so. Ricky Garrard actually did a Hyrox a couple of years ago. I think they've kind of been dabbling in it, I guess. James Newbury's done quite a few, and I don't think it's people stepping away from CrossFit. I think it's they're stepping into Hyrox just because it's getting so popular. And going back to when I was in Australia, it's such a great place to train. I was up early in the morning to go and watch the sunrise, and people are out running, and obviously the weather plays such a massive part in it, but it's such an outdoorsy place. Training there's great. Everyone's into it. It's that healthy lifestyle and the active lifestyle. So I think it's like naturally breeding these great athletes as well. And someone said, I think when I was at Rogue, someone said, wouldn't it be good to have Hyrox as one of the events in CrossFit? And that would just be two worlds colliding. I remember seeing a picture of Ricky Garrard and Hunter McIntyre together as well. And I was like, wow, two worlds coming together here. Hunter's out in Australia at the minute training as well, because he's obviously done Brisbane this morning. The Australian athletes coming through into Hyrox they're really taking it.
We've got a guy here called Ian who's a Kiwi, and he's lived here in the UK for a while. But me and him one Saturday morning we were just chatting about Bo Wills, I think, because he's sort of CrossFit orientated, but obviously coming to the Hyrox space early, if you like. We're just chatting about him, and then we were doing the warm up, and we just said to everyone in our group, we were like, "Look, guys, when this goes down under, be prepared for them to like start dominating it."
Yeah.
I think Lauren and Meg have got a fight on their hands this year to keep Jo off being the world champ. You know, she might become the world champ. I don't know. And then now we've probably got like one of the best athletes ever in any sport, Tia Toomey, deciding that she's going to put some time and effort into this. Like the whether it be everyday people, like you said, they breed out these athletes down there. They're going to like take over. And when you were there in person, do you see that? Like we get this perception that because of their culture, B, their weather system, that there's just this like it's all about activity there, and it's all about fitness. Is it like that?
It is, and I think there's people that I know who have moved out there, and they're more active and more into these kind of things than ever, because, like I say, it is a great place to train, and the amount of Hyrox they're starting to do there as well. I was listening to a podcast with Shane Orr the other day, and he was saying how, because Hyrox is so much more accessible than CrossFit as well, CrossFit are just in certain locations and you have to travel, so automatically people are at a disadvantage because they've had to spend so much time traveling. Where Hyrox are more popular and they're all over, it's so much more accessible to people, and that's why I think it is appealing, especially to CrossFitters, because they don't have to travel to America. They don't have to travel across country to do it. They can do one just down the road because they're popping up all over the place. Things like Nick Bears did Hyrox in Texas recently as well. Whereas if he was doing CrossFit, he'd have to travel sort of all over the place. So I think that it's because there's so many of them, and because they're more accessible to people, that's why people are transitioning into it. And again, it's trendy. Everyone's doing a Hyrox now. So I think the CrossFit training kind of goes nicely with Hyrox training as well. I know that one of the gyms I go to, I do like a CrossFit couple of sessions a week, and that just ties in nicely and it helps. And it's just any training. Hyrox isn't just running and doing the stations. There's so much more to it, as we all know, because we've got coaches. And Hyrox CrossFit training just kind of goes alongside that nicely, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Nick Bear in there as well, an American. It felt to me that the second half of 24 and the early part of 25 has seen some big names from other aspects of fitness come into the Hyrox space. Yeah. And they all sit, you know, if you're a consumer of any sort of like fitness content, you probably are aware of these names, and or you've seen them, and they're doing a Hyrox. And we're going to clip this bit. I'm going to call it out here, right? When is Joe Wicks going to do a Hyrox?
Oh, that's a good one.
And Joe, I'll do men's doubles with you if you fancy it. Like, we should do that. We should do that. Like, why not? Why has he not done it yet?
That's a good.
He loves running and he loves HIIT. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, maybe.
I bumped into Holly Archer last week in Vienna, who's a runner. Max Whitlock, the gymnast, he's doing Glasgow, I think. So a lot of, like you say, a lot of people in the fitness world are now not jumping on the bandwagon, but taking part. And like I say, it's not just running and doing the ski and the sled that gets you training for Hyrox. It is everything. You need to be fit and have a wide range of training programs to get you ready for it. So everyone's kind of getting involved in it. But yeah, you and Joe Wicks and doing a doubles. I'm looking forward to that.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it? I'm gonna clip this bit early and get it out there. Why not? So, Jodie, great story from you, and actually really good to talk about the whole kind of industry and your thoughts on it, because you are what this podcast is meant to be and was set up to be. We want to tell these stories from out there, and within your story, there's all those other stories that we've just talked about. That anyone who's kind of maybe looking for something in their life, this could be it, right? They just need to take that step forward. But from your position, I tend to ask this question. It's always like a top tip or a top few tips if you've got any. But the question is going to be rounded this way for you. In terms of jumping from a open to a pro weight, what is it you would say to someone if they were thinking about doing that?
Don't do it. No, I'm joking. Definitely do it. Definitely do it. Push your limits, push yourself. If you can do it, and just to push yourself. Okay, also it does depend on what you want from it. So if someone did say to me, if I was you, I would stick to open now and try and get a better time in open. I get that, but also I might not want to get a better time in the open. I might want to try and push heavier weights. Everyone's different, and everyone's journey and what they want to achieve is different. I would say that if I can do it, anyone can do it. Just give it a shot, give it a try. But obviously be prepared that it is a lot tougher. And I think if people were sensible and do it the right way, totally unlike I did, work your way into it. So do a solo, do a mixed doubles, do a pro doubles, then a solo, not go from an open doubles to a solo pro like I did. That was just bad timing on my part, but do it, definitely do it. Push yourself. Like, what is the point in doing these events and taking part in these things if you're not going to push yourself? If you're not going to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And it was really funny. I was talking to Faisal when I was out in Toulouse, and that week he'd posted something that I'd screenshot, and I showed him I'd screenshot it, and it was about pushing yourself outside that comfort zone. And I was so out of my comfort zone doing that pro race, but if I never did it, I would never know. And I probably would always think, shall I do it? Push yourself and do it.
We love Faisal, previous guest on the show as well. Love him.
That's what I mean when you said to me, come on the show. And I said, but you've had all these great people, and what's my story? But the more I thought about it, I think there's a lot of coverage for people who are the elite and getting the podiums and getting the top spots. And there's also a lot of coverage about the people who've got a story to tell and don't have such great times. But the majority of the people who do these races are just in-betweeners like me, right? Who just do it for a bit of fun and not aiming to win anything. So anyone who wants to do something, my advice is just to go and do it.
I totally agree. And I think, the podcast itself was what we will happily speak to the Elite 15 and the elite coaches, but the podcast and the platform, the gap, the reason I started this was, Greg's doing a wonderful job of getting all the science into this and all the training methods and talking to those elites. And I love the Rox Live show, the Rad Chicks in the same way, and Ian at UK Fitness Racing. But we all have this different thing. But I think this show is about what you just said. It's about the real life people and the real life stories, because at the end of the day, that's the majority of people.
Yeah. And that's people who buy the tickets and turn up to these events and turn up to support and turn up to all these other events that are going on at weekends. It is just us people who do it for fun and just to push ourselves.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Brilliant. So, Jodie, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people follow your journey?
I'm on Instagram, J Hawksby. Like you said, it is pretty much a flat day every week and lots of pictures from events and races, and I love a reel. But yeah, it's just me, my accounting life, who does a few workouts and a few competitions and goes on holiday every now and then.
No, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. And to everyone who has listened or watched the show, thanks very much for listening and taking the time. And if you think there is anyone that you are sort of, as you've listened to this or watched it, thinks could hear this story or it help them in any way, or you just think it'd be a good listen for them, please do share it to them. Please like, comment and subscribe, because us little guys need some help as well. It's not just all about the big accounts. It would be really appreciated if you could. And I am looking forward to more episodes. I don't normally drop a carrot, but we should be getting a bit of a chat with someone from down under who knows a lot about the industry, who can give us a little bit of an update about what happened in Brisbane and a bit of a Glasgow pre-show as well. So on that note, I just want to say thanks again, Jodie, and thanks to everyone that has been here to listen and watch today. And I hope to speak more in the future on the Rox.